Hello, my name is James Steed, Jim Steed to some people. I'm a scientific English editor. And today I'm going to talk about, very quickly, just to give you a quick idea of how you choose words. But before I begin that, let me tell you a story. A long time ago, right when I got into graduate school, they didn't want to accept me into the linguistics department because my major had been art. So they said, if you get a B on the first two classes that you take here in graduate school, we will let you permanently into our department of linguistics. So I was placed into an introductory linguistics class with the teacher who was absolutely horrible. I went to her class, and every 3 words she used was this long. When you could use a word this long, she would prefer to use a word that long. It was long word after long word after long word after long word after long word, and I was outside of my regular major. It was extremely stressful to me because I didn't understand a word she was saying. And even her textbook, the textbook she decided was a textbook that was nothing but long word after long word after long word. And every time I opened that book, or every time I listened to her lecture, all I wanted to do was to go to sleep to get away from there. But I was under high stress. So the only way I could actually learn this class was to go out and find a textbook that didn't write like that wrote in more simple English. So I did. I found a great introductory textbook to linguistics. Covered the same topics, but wrote about it in very plain, simple language. So thanks to that textbook, I passed this woman's course. At first, I thought I was quite stupid. First, I thought, God, I must be the only person in this class that must be that stupid. I thought so because I was coming out of art, you see. But then the following semester, the advisor of the department asked me to teach her class after she taught it. So all the new incoming graduate students would take her class, say at 10 o'clock, and at about 11:30, they would all come over to the library, and I would have a room there, and I would teach the very same class she had just taught to them to help them get through the class. In other words, they all had the same problem with her. Of course, when she found out, she got very angry. However, this just goes to show you that sometimes using what you think, when you think you're using great big words that you can impress a lot of people, in fact, you are just scaring them away. All right. Now, journals want to have a high impact factor, right? They want to have a high impact factor there. Look down there, high impact factor. That means many happy readers, right? All right. Well, how do you get that? You get it by making the readers happy, all right? And so when you are writing, you have to be able to choose the right words, all right? Words that readers like and trust. And for readers to like and trust them, they must be 1, precise, 2, simple, 3, necessary, And of course, they should be correct words. So today, I'm going to give you a few examples of precise, simple, necessary, and correct words. Not a whole lot of them. All you need is a viewpoint, a guanyin, right? All you need is a viewpoint, a way to look at what is good writing and what isn't good writing. All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go to the next one. Let's take a look at how to choose precise words. And all I'm going to do is give you some examples. So take a look. Blood flow was dramatically reduced when that vessel was obstructed. Now, how can that phrase, dramatically reduced, be made more precise? Think about it. Dramatically reduced. What is dramatic? What constitutes a dramatic reduction? So let's just say blood flow was reduced by 20%. All right, 20%. So which one is more believable? Which sentence do you trust more? That the blood flow was dramatically reduced or the blood flow was reduced by 20%? I can bet you that you actually believe that it was reduced by 20% is far more trustworthy than saying dramatically reduced. Let's look at a few more. We're looking at precise words now. Look at the next one. Blood levels remained increased for several hours. Well, several. How much is several? One person's several is another person's little. Right? Or one person's several is somebody else's results. So to be more precise, we could do this. They remained increased for 6.2 hours. Now that's more believable, especially since you see the 0.2 there means that this person is counted in very precisely. All right, let's go on. The change in levels produced by that intervention was 85% of the maximum response to that drug. All right, well, change. There are all kinds of changes, up, down, big, small, all kinds of changes. What kind of change do we have when there is an 85% reduction, an 85% less? Then we would say that it was a reduction. All right. The reduction in levels produced by that intervention was 85%. All right. So that is a more precise word than the word change. And it helps the reader understand it much more easily. All right. If you just use the word change, they have to think up or down, up or down. But in fact, when you use the word reduction, then you already say it's going down. All right. So take a look at the next one. The cells were exposed to deficient serum for 48 hours. Exposed. There are many ways to be exposed to something, right? So give me a picture of how they were exposed. So you could say the cells were mixed with, cultured with, incubated with the deficient serum for 48 hours, and then the reader or I see what you're talking about. Okay, makes it realer to the reader. Take a look at another one. The injection of sodium dehydrated the organism. The hydrating effect was rescued by blah, 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 blah. Rescue. It's like someone is at the beach drowning somewhere and the lifeguard jumps in. Nah. So rescued actually just means it was stopped perhaps, or it was reversed, the action was reversed. So what do we have here? To be more precise, we could say that it was inhibited or blocked. Inhibited here would mean probably the same thing as slowed down, and blocked would mean completely stopped. All right, those are more precise than going out to save something, right? Let's look at another rescued here. Deletion of APP homolog can be partially rescued by human APP 695. All right, well, partially rescued. Partially rescued. That's a hard one because you've got to have some pretty good English in order to know how. The English is not particularly difficult, but you kind of need to be a native speaker to know that you could use the word offset. All right, offset was kind of like compensated for, but not completely stopped, but partially stopped. So you have, if it's going this way, then something comes in and does it this way or halfway through. So it offsets some of this. All right, take a look at another one. Infusion of serotonin was associated with an increase in pressure. Associated with, well, you can, if you're doing a study using surveys, for example, you could say that there is an association because you cannot establish cause and effect with those kinds of studies. But here, there's kind of a cause and effect going on here. All right. So we could probably say the infusion of serotonin caused an increase in pressure, but that's a little bit strong. We don't know if there's a direct cause or an indirect cause. Maybe there's a pathway of some sort. So it might be better to say that it led to an increase in pressure or resulted in an increase in pressure. It was a little bit, it's much more causal than associated with, but not as strong as cause. So you have to be a little bit careful when you're choosing words, all right? Now, also, besides choosing precise words, you need to choose simple words, right? This was the problem that teacher had when she was using these great big words in my graduate school class. She was too busy trying to make everyone think that she was highly intelligent and that she was great and wonderful. She was busy impressing us, not expressing her ideas, but trying to make us think that she was great and fantastic. In fact, she was just boring. All right, so take a look at this sentence. Blood aliquots were drawn from 6 female and 8 male children at a half hour following the initiation of dialysis. Well, okay, I understand it, all right, but I've been reading science for a long time. I understand it, but does it really need to sound that way? Wouldn't it be much easier just to say this? Blood samples were drawn from 6 girls and 8 boys at a half hour after the beginning of dialysis. You can understand that just like that, right? Why do I need to make the half? Why are you asking in the first one, right? In the first one, why are you asking the reader to do all the thinking for you? All right. Is it the reader's job to study you for years and years to find out what you really mean? Or is it your job just to be clear? This is being clear. Let's take a look at another one. The interview was initiated on July 10, 2005. Okay, initiated. I think everyone knows what initiated is. It means begun, right? Is initiated any clearer, any more specific, any more correct than the word begin? No. So why don't you just use started or begun? Mark Twain said, why should I use the word metropolis when the newspaper gives me the same amount of money to say the word city? So I get $1 for city, I get $1 for metropolis. It's less trouble to use the word city, right? So take a look at that. That's just what that is showing you there. Here's another one. The expression of these genes is evident prior to the formation of distinct motor axon pathways, right? Well, prior to, same thing. Prior to, we all know, means before. So why? Is prior to any more specific, any more correct? No. So just use this. The expression of these genes is evident before the formation of the distinct motor pathways. All right, let's go on to another. Oh, here's a good one. I had to even look this one up on the dictionary myself, The multiple docking sites guide the saltatory movement of these protein complexes. All right, so here you are. You want to show that you have great vocabulary. Okay? You want to impress everybody with your fantastic mastery of English. And so you've got 90% of the readers all having to go to the dictionary to look up this word that you said, you used. While they're doing that, they're forgetting the sentence that you said. So you've made reading your paper or your sentence a lot more difficult than it should be, when in fact, it means one of these. Now, Einstein said everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler, all right? So saltatory could mean irregular, but that's just a little too simple, because saltatory means to stop, go, at irregular times, right? Where irregular could be slow, fast, not just stop, go. So the closer ones would be discontinuous, intermittent, or sporadic. Now, you may not know these. You may have to look them up in the dictionary, all right? But that's because you cannot get any simpler than possible, all right? And irregular is just too simple of a word to use in this situation. And here are some words that would work, but you probably have to look them up in a dictionary or in a thesaurus. Okay, let's take a look at some more. Prostaglandins are known to enhance nociceptive responses. Oh my God, help me. Nociceptive responses. Enhance. Enhance too is a problem, Enhance. Does enhance mean to make them better, or does it mean to increase or promote? We don't really know what this person is trying to say, because lots of people use the word enhance incorrectly. Why do we say this when we just mean increase pain? Prostaglandins are known to increase pain. Oh, it's so much simpler, so much easier to understand, right? That's the way there was a very famous professor at Taiwan University in public health, and she was having a hard time getting her papers published, and she asked me to help her edit, and I make everything, just like Einstein said, as simple as possible. And she started publishing left and right in really famous places. She would go to conferences and everyone began to know her. And one day she looked at me and says, Jim, you changed my career. And what I like about you is you make public health. You write public health for the public. Right, for the public. You're not writing papers to impress your peers, and they all don't need you. You are a professional. They are a professional. You don't need to pretend like you're anything else. So just be clear. And I do want you to know that your journals, their intended readers are called the educated readers. Not readers in your field particularly, but the educated reader, someone who has a good education, who could possibly understand you, even though they're not in your field. That's who they're talking to. That's who they want. That's how they get a high impact factor. All right, let's go on. The Doppler signal displayed continuous low-frequency blood flow that was directed hepatorinally. Oh my God, oh my Lord. Hepatitis. Oh my God, it probably has something to do with the liver. All right. So wouldn't it be better if you just said blood flow that was directed toward the liver? Oh, beautiful. All right, let's go on to the next one. Here's another one. I took this from it. I went to PubMed and looked it up and found a title that had this part of it. Mechanically ventilated horses anesthetized with isoflurane and positioned in dorsal or lateral recumbency. In dorsal or lateral recumbency. All right, dorsally, laterally, I can understand if you're talking just to people in your field. Recumbency, I can't understand why you would want to use that at all, right? So if we wanted to make this easier for everyone to understand, if we want to increase the journal's impact factor, we would just say this. And positioned on their backs or sides. Their backs is dorsal, side is lateral. So the horses are positioned on their backs or on their sides, right? That's great, right? Why go to all this dorsal lateral recumbency? Now let's look at something else. Eliminating unnecessary words. Well, there are all kinds of unnecessary words, and lots of people like to use them, right? Sometimes writers want to be very clear, very, very precise, and they want to make sure that everyone knows that this is referring to that. This means this, it goes to that noun or to that, or this, that goes to that noun or that pronoun. And so they're trying to be extremely precise, being extremely careful. And what happens when they do that is the reader begins to think, oh my God, this is complicated. Is there something I don't understand? When in fact, the ideas are pretty easy. All right, let's take a look at this one. After 4 hours of hemodialysis, we abruptly ended the hemodialysis procedure. All right, so there's too many words here. First of all, hemodialysis is a procedure. And listening to two hemodialyses here at the same time is drives you a little bit crazy, right? So if we did this and we said, after 4 hours, we abruptly ended the hemodialysis. Doesn't it mean the same thing? Probably. The sentence before this, after 4 hours, is already talking about the hemodialysis, all right, or putting someone on hemodialysis, or starting someone there. So we don't have to repeat it again and again. So go after 4 hours, we abruptly ended the hemodialysis, or if they talked about the hemodialysis over here, we could say we abruptly ended the procedure even, all right? Let's go on to another one. Oxygen uptake in response to drugs was examined and found to vary considerably. Okay, this sentence is probably explaining some results of an experiment, right? So when you are explaining your results, you are explaining what you found. So it's not always necessary for you to say you found it. You just give the result. Here's the double trouble because we said examined and found. All right. So first of all, in order to find, you must first examine. So by finding, we have already examined. So there's no need to say that, is there? All right. So we could improve this one by just saying oxygen uptake varied considerably in response to the drugs. Very clear. That's what we found. If you wanted sometimes to say found, you could say we found that oxygen uptake varied considerably in response to the drugs. Okay, let's go on. Here's another one. This accumulation leads to the accumulation of a cytoplasmic pool of this substance. Okay, well, here we have two accumulations, which we don't need. We particularly don't need them because they're very long. And a pool of, probably accumulation is kind of a pool of things that accumulate together. So we probably don't need this pool either. So this accumulation means that there was some kind of accumulation talked. You got a this, so probably the previous sentence was about accumulation. So it might be better to say something like this. All right. This accumulation over here leads to, or you could just say, you could get rid of this sentence. You could get rid of the beginning sentence and put a comma and say leading to the accumulation of this substance in the cytoplasm. Okay, you got rid of pool, you got rid of one accumulation, and now you have just accumulation of the substance in the cytoplasm. That's all you need to say. So you got rid of one repeated word and another word that meant about the same thing that you really didn't need to say. All right, let's go on. Here's an example of someone trying to be particularly clear, right? Making sure that the reader understands the relationship, right? Maximal coronary blood flow further decreased endocardial diameter and increased the wall thickness during systole. Both the decrease in the systolic and cardinal diameter and the increase in systolic wall thickness were greater when the pericardium was closed. Well, here you are repeating the change. Decrease, decrease, increase, increase. You're repeating this change again, all right? So sure, you're trying to be especially precise, very clear, very careful with what you say, but oh my God, what happens is the reader's saying, oh, they looked down here and said, well, is this the same thing as up there? Oh yeah, it's the same. So what you're forcing the reader to do is to go up and check to make sure that they said the same thing, right? When really all you need to do was this. Both of these changes, the decrease here and the increase here, were greater when the pericardium was closed, right? That's all you need to say because the changes are the same. Just make sure you don't say both of these. You need to put in a changes here because a decrease and increase are a change. Now, besides all of that, there is the idea, there are some things you need to know. You need to know how to use your English, all right? Now, some native speakers have problems with it and some non-native speakers have problems with it too. Native speakers will probably have problems when it comes to scientific English in particular, whereas non-native speakers will have some problems with just general English too. So let's take a look at these. His status was evaluated or examined before admission. What do you think? Well, the correct answer would be evaluated, because you evaluate the state of a disease or the condition of a disease. If, for example, you were studying a culture or the slide, microscopically looking at slides, then you would examine them, right? We collected demographic data, including age and sex or gender. Correct answer is sex, because this is a physical thing, right? What did they imply or infer from their results? Imply or infer. The correct answer is infer, because it means conclude. What did they conclude from their results? If you said the word imply, that would mean to suggest. And that in suggesting, you could report your results and tell you what it might suggest. But a suggestion is far different than a conclusion, right? The treatment requires or necessitates both procedures, okay? Well, the correct answer here is necessitates, right? Because it's critical to do two things. Required means you would prefer to do it. Doesn't always mean you have to do it in order to accomplish something, all right? Necessitate means that the two things are critical, okay? Now here's some general English ones. They hung or they hanged the picture on the back wall. Okay, well, for non-native speakers, they would have a trouble. Hung means to like hang, to hang something on something, right? You put a nail here, then you put some string here and a picture here. You're hanging it, all right? Not hang where where you're executing someone. So you don't hang a picture, all right? Now, well, you do hang them. You don't. This is the past tense. That if you said you hanged the picture, it means you killed it. All right. I suspect, or I doubt, he did it all by himself. He's not smart enough. Correct answer is doubt, because doubt is a disbelief. I disbelieved he did it by himself. Why? Because he's not smart enough. Suspect means you believe, kind of believe that he did it. All right. So doubt would be the correct answer. He was administered a dosage or a dose this morning before noon. Correct answer. Dose. One dose. A dosage is 5 milligrams 3 times a day. Well, you can't get 3 times a day when you have this morning before noon. Okay. Besides or except John, Bill will be there for the opening. Well, besides means in addition to. Except means everybody but. All right. So you need to say, in addition to John, Bill will be there for the opening besides John. Although I don't really like the word besides at all. Every time someone writes their papers and use the words besides, I just change it to in addition to or additionally, right? Because besides sounds a little bit like by the way, right? She put on a dress to the party, or wore a dress to the party. Correct answer here is wore, okay? Because wore is a long-term thing, all right? To put on means a very short term, to 穿上, all right? So you 穿上, if you keep putting it on to the party, you would look pretty crazy at the party, right? To wear means to already have it on, all right? So when did you find out or know he had left? Correct answer is find out, because you find out once you find out, it means you already know. So here, when is a short time, the discovery. I mean, to discover. When did you discover he had left here? You would have to use find out, because you don't win a no, because a no is a long time. Okay. Take a look at the next one. We don't have to look anymore. Now you know what I mean by choosing words that readers like and trust. Precise words, simple words, necessary words, and correct words. So you're choosing precise, simple, and correct words, and you are eliminating unnecessary words. These things will make your writing much more accessible to many more readers. It'll make it easy to understand your writing, and it'll get you through a peer review process much faster. And a lot of people will thank you very much for writing in a way that makes it easier for us to understand. Thank you. Goodbye.